Welcome back to Gun&ShotTV. This is Chris, and today I was going to talk about steel case ammo. Shooting in an AR, shooting in a couple different rifles, pistols. I mean, I've had no problem shooting steel case ammo, but when I posted the video of this gun, when I put it together and was just testing it out, there were a lot of comments telling me, you know, I'm an idiot, you shouldn't shoot steel case in an AR, you shouldn't shoot it in any rifle. And then there were a lot of comments saying I should steel case in all my stuff, I don't have any problems with it, you know. I don't know why people are upset about it. And I think both sides have some valid points. But, you know, if you examine it and look at the difference between steel and brass case, you can find what will kind of make your gun run. The first thing that I think a lot of steel case ammo differs on is it may have harder primers. It may have a little bit different powder charge. You know, some people say steel case is weaker, and so it doesn't cycle as well. But I'm not sure if that's really all it's cracked up to be. I think there's some other issues in steel case that may cause weaker cycling or weaker ejection without it actually being a weaker powder charge. So looking a little bit closer, today I've got some Tula ammo. I'm going to shoot some of this today. And this is the newer stuff with the nickel washed bullet or case jacketed bullet. So, looking closely, it's got a shitty Tula ammo primer and, you know, your standard polymer-coated steel case. Now, there are different types of steel case ammo. The older stuff was lacquer-coated, and that I think had some problems because sometimes the lacquer would be a little thick, either on one side or kind of there'd be like a drip stuck to it. And if you put that lacquer in a hot chamber, it's going to kind of melt and stick in the chamber. So I'm not a big fan of that stuff. I haven't run a whole bunch of it because most of the stuff you get now is not lacquered. But this newer stuff, the polymer stuff, seems to work pretty well with a few exceptions, like I said. Number one, the case is steel. Now, it's not as hard as the steel in your extractor, which is tool steel. But it is steel. It's a little bit harder than brass. Now, theoretically, there shouldn't be any damage there. But if there's grit on there, if there's anything stuck to it, it's going to be harder. Now that grit is going to go between the steel and your metal, like a brass case, it might stick into the brass a little bit more and be less aggressive. And no matter what, you're going to have a little bit of extra wear from this steel case on your extractor. It's a given. My extractor breaks after 3,000 rounds instead of 5,000. I think it's, frankly, cheaper just to replace the extractor and shoot cheaper ammo. Some people, you know, feel that it's worth paying the extra for the brass case 100%. But there's one other thing that I think a lot of people gloss over or miss. I mentioned how the lacquer cases can get a little bit thick and foul out your chamber. But there's one other important thing that I think bears mentioning, and that is steel cases do not expand and fill the chamber like a brass case. When you fire this cartridge or any cartridge, the brass actually expands and it grabs the walls of the chamber and it seals the chamber and lets all that gas blow forward and the projectile blow forward, and it seals the chamber. After the chamber pressure drops, brass springs back. Steel neither expands as far as brass, and it doesn't actually retract the same way as brass. So what happens when you shoot steel case, especially when you shoot a lot of it, is each time you're shooting, there's a little bit of powder and gas that's blowing by that case and fouling out that chamber. It's just the nature of shooting steel case, and it's not terrible. Like in handguns, you probably wouldn't even notice it. But in a rifle, when I go to clean my rifle barrel, if I'm using a bore snake or something like that, or a brush, I mean this is a 223 brush, you can see it's the size of the bullet, not the size of the case. And what I think a lot of people miss is when you're shooting steel case in a rifle, I mean you should be using a bore or a chamber brush no matter what. But I think a lot of people forget that. And especially in steel case, it exacerbates the issue. So what you need to do is go out and get a chamber brush. You can find military surplus ones kind of cheap. You can find new ones. I think this one was $5. And what that is it's the size of the cartridge this brass brush, and then especially for ARs it's important, it's got this extra wide brush back here, and that cleans the lug locking surface in the barrel extension, so when the bolt slams home, it can lock. If there's a bunch of crap in there, it's going to cause that bolt to turn slower. So if you don't clean it, and you don't do all this stuff, you're going to end up with a chamber that's going to be coated with shit. Every time you jam a round in, it's going to get stuck there. And then when the gun fires, and it shoots gas and tries to work the bolt, that bolt's going to have a lot more resistance, and then you'll end up with either stuck cases or really slow ejection, or sometimes you'll even have the cases stick so bad it'll rip the rim right off the case. And any of those cases, if you start getting those stuck cases, stop what you're doing, clean the chamber, don't keep shooting. That's how you're going to break your extractor. So let me show you how that looks real quick. If you want to do a quick cleaning, you got some cases sticking. I mean, one case isn't a huge deal, but if you have more than one stick in a time shooting, I would definitely just stop and quickly clean the chamber before you keep firing, because that's the way you're going to break your extractor, if anything. So all you're going to need to do on an AR, it's really simple. You're just going to take the bolt out here. Now your bolt's out. And then you're just going to take your chamber brush, shove it right in the back there, and just work it in and out of that chamber. Try and rotate it. This one's really stiff because it's brand new, but you're just going to get in there and work all that shit out of the chamber. You know, if it's really bad, use some solvent, something like that. You know, if it's mildly clean, if you do this every time you clean the gun, the chamber's going to stay clear. It's not going to build up shit as fast, and you won't have problems shooting steel case. But after, you know, like I said, you know, at the range you can do this 2 quick passes, and now your chamber's going to be reasonably clean, and you can go back to shooting. When you get home, use some solvent. Go in, make sure that, you know, everything's clean. Inspect it for, you know, damage, any sort of wear. Like I said, you can end up with the harder steel cases. If grit gets stuck in there, it's gonna wear much quickly between steel and your barrel versus brass in your barrel. So now I'm all done. Slap the gun back together, and I should be ready to shoot more steel case ammo. And there was a lot of talking, and I appreciate you sticking with me. We'll throw another mag down range just for good measure. So I hope you've learned a little bit about steel case, and hopefully how you can run it in your guns if you choose to. If you choose not to, I'm not going to bag on you for that. It's entirely your gun. You can run it how you want. I would rather shoot more and save a little bit of money and put a little bit of extra maintenance in, but I can understand if you only want to run what you want to run. For Gun&ShotTV, this is Chris. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.